What's going on? It's your boy, Connor Conflict, back again, and in today's video, it's a mock offseason of the Miami Dolphins. So it has everything from cuts, free agency, draft, all of it, and projected lineup at the end. So without further ado, we're going to hop right into it. I appreciate you guys for even tuning in. If you have any suggestions on future videos, please drop them down below because I'm all out of ideas. But with that said, we're going straight into cuts. There's some... Just because I'm predicting it doesn't mean it's going to happen. These are who I think are going to get cut. Without further ado, the Dolphin legend. I know he's a fan favorite. It might upset some people, but Jesse Davis, gone forever. Cutting him saves $3.6 million. Allen Hurns, Clayton Fetchlam, Ethan Carter, Greg Little, Adam Shaheen. And this last one's a borderline guy, but I have him getting cut. Just what I think is going to happen, not necessarily what I want to happen. Eric Rowe. So all those cuts would save us $18.6 million and would put the salary cap at $80 million. We can create even more cap with restructures to guys like X or Byron. But I feel like we're in a position where we don't even need to, but we could. So we could probably get close to like $100 million if we really wanted to. But I think $80 million is a fair landmark to reach. Cutting Adam Butler would save $4.1 million. But I think Adam Butler is worth that money. He's a very good pass rushing defensive lineman, so I think we keep it as is. So that's the cuts. Now we're going to go into the players that contracts are expiring that we should keep. First, I'm going to start with Emmanuel Ogbah. Now, Mike McDaniel today in his press conference talked about Ogbah, and it seems like we're interested in keeping him, but it does not seem like it's likely that we get a deal done, just based off the words that were used. But it seems like there's interest. It just seems like probably the numbers are too far apart. So he'll likely hit the open market, which is not good. But for the sake of this, I have us extending Emmanuel Ogbah. The projection was like 3 years, $30 million, which based off the feeling I get, it's probably going to be more than that. But that was just a projection that I used based off Spot Track. Next would be franchise tagging Mike Gesicki. He was also brought up in today's press conference, and it seems like there's interest, and there's been reports that we're going to tag him, so hopefully that's the route we go. Next guy, I think it's a no-brainer. Extending Matt Collins. He should be cheap, and he's a potential guy that can get some receiving snaps, so he's an elite special teamer and captain. Second round tender on Nick Needham. He's a restricted free agent, but he's been on the roster for 3 years now, so it's time to make a decision. Second round tender would only cost $4 million. If a team decides to sign him, then we get their second round pick, so it would be worth it, and if that was the case. And then I'm just going to list off the other guys that we could just resign. They're not going to be expensive, but depth pieces that we could potentially add, or retain rather. Landon Roberts, Durham Smythe, Duke Johnson, Philip Lindsay, Duke Riley, St. Megwavon, Preston Williams. Some people think we should let him go. Maybe, but I don't think it'd be... It's not a bad camp body to have, but if he's going to get... If his market is bigger than that, then yes. Trill Williams, Savon Ahmed, Elijah Campbell. Those are restricted free agents, so they're cheap to retain. But the big names I'll mention, Duke Johnson, Philip Lindsay. If anyone's going to have a big market, then let them walk. But I think those are both cheap, controllable guys that you can bring back, have them in camp, have them compete. And if they don't work out, then you let them go. And it shouldn't cost you any dead cap. Durham Smythe, this is kind of like I cut Shaheen and bring back Durham. Durham's a boy. He's a good depth tight end to have. If he needs to play the role he did this year, he did it fine. You'd like to see increased blocking, and I feel like the scheme will get the most out of there. But like his blocking wasn't great, but I feel like the scheme makes the blockers better, which is kind of correlates to offensive line as well. So I think I hit on all the re-signings. The big one for me is Ogbah, but I'm not hopeful after what I heard today, but we'll see. And let me know down below, like what moves do you agree with, do you disagree with, what would you do? So hopping into free agency, a very exciting time. I feel like I'm going a different route than most Dolphins fans want. A lot of us are big on trying to get Armstead, and Armstead's a stud. But if you've been following along, you know who my top free agent is, and that's Trent Brown. So I got us sending, and honestly, it doesn't even seem expensive. Even Spot Track and PFF has projected contract around $10 million a year. So 2 years, $20 million could be incentivized, is what they noted. I send that in immediately. You have your starting right tackle. Now, I went back and forth on this next guy. This is going to get someone that the fan base will be very hyped up about, but there is a better scheme fit. However, the guy's not a better player. So I went with a better player than scheme fit. And he's a better pass protector, in my opinion. So Ryan Jensen on a 3-year, $39 million deal, $13 million a year was his projected deal. Now, obviously, this isn't the deal I would sign him to. This is the projected deal. So the guy I was going back and forth with was the Rams center, Brian Allen, who's an unrestricted free agent. Like I said, better scheme fit. He's more athletic than Jensen, but Jensen's a more sturdy guy, in my opinion. And I mean, I'm sure he can run this scheme, but Brian Allen's obviously got history in it and has proven to show his athleticism in it. But he's got injury history, so I think Jensen's the guy I would go with if possible. If he hits the open market rather. So that's helps secure. And he's a veteran. He's the eyes for the offensive line. He can help communicate to the young guys and help make them better as well. So that's a big thing I'm looking for is the Dolphins aren't in the stage to get guys that are like, oh, let's sign him and maybe he'll be good, but like we kind of have him as our starter. No, we need proven commodities that are going to make the players around them better. And I think that's what Trent Brown and Ryan Jensen would do. Next, the really only hole in our defensive and on our defense, if we were to retain Agba, is linebacker, and I solved that issue with Devondre Campbell. He's probably the biggest inside backer market out of everyone. He had a tremendous year with the Packers. His projected deal is 2 years, $18 million, which is steep for an inside backer, but I think he's a pitch perfect scheme fit in terms of like he's got size, he can fit the run and he can play the pass. And he would allow Baker to play more outside and use his athleticism to not necessarily have to fight all the big blocks that Campbell can. And we can continue to move him around from inside, outside, edge, and just use his versatility to the max. And I think Campbell's your fix for all three phases. Now, a budget Campbell's got an expensive market. 2 years, $18 million is a lot. Someone who I view very similar regards as Campbell, and it's probably going to be a cheaper deal, would be Alexander Johnson, Denver Bronco. If you guys remember the Tua game last year where he got pulled for fits, I just remember seeing Alexander Johnson all over the field. He's a long linebacker. He's pretty athletic and a sure tackler, and he's not bad in coverage either. So if we can't get Campbell, I'd hope it would be Alexander Johnson. So, and granted, the free agents I'm listing, I didn't go into detail on the depth guys. There's going to be special teams guys that we pick up and like depth guys. I really just went with the guys that I think will make like big impacts that I can see us going after. So I think free agency will probably end up signing like 10 people, but I went a little smaller. Next guy, running back, Raheem Mostert. Obviously, there's the 49er projection. Was a former Miami Dolphin. I like it because I think we're going to go get a running back in the draft. I don't think it's going to be as early as some people think. I think 3rd, 4th, 5th undrafted guys we'll bring in, plus the guys we already have in. I think the running back, it might be on the roster already, believe it or not. But I think Mostert can help teach the scheme to people, help give them the knowledge that they may need, and will probably serve as a starter. He could be our starter the entire season. I think he'll probably start as a starter. But maybe he passes the torch on to one of the younger guys as they develop. Now, I got backup quarterback, and it's actually funny because McDaniel mentioned it in his combine presser today, that we need a quarterback on the roster to back up Tua. Now, there's 2 guys I have in mind. I think one's going to be too expensive, which is why I have us signing Ryan Fitzpatrick, Dolphin legend. He honestly might be too expensive as well due to how poor the quarterback draft is and the need for a veteran quarterback, that a team might be willing to kind of like not pay top dollar but pay like a solid backup premium for Fitzpatrick because he could serve as a starter for a year while they wait for the next class, or see if they can trade for like a star quarterback so they could use him as a holdover. So his market might be bigger than I'm expecting. But if you can get him for cheap backup money, like hopefully less than what we paid Jacoby last year, because $5 million for Jacoby was poor in my opinion. But if you can get him for less than $5 million, I would do it in a heartbeat. The other guy I was referring to is Marcus Mariota, the Hawaiian connection. He would be a phenomenal backup quarterback, not only just the connection with Tua, but he's great athlete, and if Tua were to get hurt, like unfortunately, he'd step right in and be one of the better backups in the league. But once again, with the whole veteran quarterback, I could see him honestly getting a starting job in free agency and going for like upwards of $8 million. So I think he's out of our market. Fitz might be out of our market too, so another guy to keep eyes on. Nick Mullins, he has experience in the Shanahan system with the 49ers, of course, so he wouldn't be expensive as Fitz or Mariota. So if it's not Fitz or Mariota, I would go after Nick Mullins. The last free agent I have us going after is Alec Ingold. He's a fullback for the Raiders. I think the Raiders keep him. I'm shocked they haven't re-signed him yet, but if not, go get a fullback. He's actually pretty versatile. He can line up, obviously, fullback. He can catch the football. He can run the football. He could maybe be our use check. I don't know. No one's use check, but maybe that's someone that we could have compete for that job. And then, like I said, there's going to be depth guys that we sign that I'm not going to go out and just project a random, eighth receiver and corner. You know what I'm saying? That'll all play out, but those are the big guys that I see us going after, which is Trent Brown, Ryan Jensen would help solidify our offensive line. Then you get Devondre Campbell, the missing piece in our defense, in my opinion. And then you get a running back and backup quarterback, and we cook, especially with what we're going to do in this draft, which I got right here. Round 1, I have us going wide receiver, Chris Olave. Now, I don't know if this is necessarily going to be Chris Olave, but I think it's going to probably be a receiver because there's a lot of good receivers, and one of them's bound to fall to us at 29. May that be, if Jameson Williams somehow falls due to the ACL, run to the podium with that pick. But I think this was done via the Draft Network simulator, so I took who was available. So Chris Olave was there. I think Jahan Dotson. It's kind of which guys could fall. I think those guys are more likely to fall than like the Treylon Burks of the world and Garrett Wilson's. I think those are the surefire early receivers to fall off the board. But even like a Mechie, if he falls, I don't think I think he'll fall into the second round too. So maybe you don't take a receiver round 1 and you move up for Mechie. But for the sake of this mock draft, I went Chris Olave round 1. Round 2, I went tackle Tyler Smith out of Tulsa. If you paid attention to the Daniel Jeremiah mock, he mocked us getting Tyler Smith. He's like a mauler in the run game. He's got a penalty issue, but he's super aggressive, like a mauler. He's got to be refined, which for Dolphins fans, a panic, but that plays into what I'll explain later. But a lot of people project him to be a guard. So he's a tackle now, but they project him to be like an all-pro guard, kind of like a Rob Hunt, how he went from tackle to guard. I'm not saying they're the same player, but in terms of like their tackle guard ability, kind of in that nature. To continue, Tyreek Smith, Ohio State edge. He's I won't say versatile guy, but he's a high upside guy. He hasn't lived up to the potential, but he's got burst and juice, something that can maybe he's not necessarily going to be a day 1 impact, but could potentially develop into a good starter. 4th round, Chigo Okonkwo, Maryland tight end. He's versatile once again, a guy that could potentially be a use check, can play in line in the backfield, out wide. He's very versatile, athletic, and a similar build. So once again, a guy that could potentially live up to that. Running back, Jerome Ford, Cincinnati. He's a big back with actually pretty solid juice. Not like top speed, but he's pretty fast. Has a combination of speed, power. Just these are from the scouting reports that they have there. I respect those guys. So round 5, I guys taking defensive lineman Thomas Booker out of Stanford. I just have us adding a depth defensive lineman. I remember watching a interview of him just talking about football, and I like him. Round 5, I don't think it's a bad pick. Round 6, linebacker Joshua Ross at Penn State. From my understanding, I remember reading, I think he's like more of like a hybrid guy, someone that could potentially play run and pass. Round 6, you're getting special teamers, maybe guys that can eventually develop. Last but not least, I got Charleston Rambo, receiver from Miami. I remember when I was watching Kyler Murray and CeeDee Lamb film, I remember Charleston Rambo popping every now and again. So I think he's a good athlete who is pretty solid after the catch as well. So, hey, man, 7th round, I think I would be more than okay taking a flyer on a potential stud receiver. So that is the draft, which leads to projected starting lineup, which is hard to do because of the personnel groups But for the sake of it, I went 12 personnel with 2 receivers. So quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, running back, Raheem Mostert. Receivers would be Jalen Waddle, Chris Olave. Tight ends, Mike Gesicki, and then a combination of who you want at tight end between if maybe Hunter Long develops or Durham Smythe or Chigo Okonkwo if he develops. But once again, it could be 21 personnel. So we do get a fullback and they develop. Maybe that's the route we go. Let's see the offensive line. So left tackle, left guard is a combination of who develops the best between Tyler Smith, Eichenberg, Austin Jackson. Like I said, Tyler Smith is a left tackle who people project to be like a very good guard. So maybe I do think it's important they have defined roles going into camp and let them compete. But I think you take the best two out of the best 2 of the 3 and figure out which positions they fit best at. But I don't like how we did last year where they kept moving them. No, give them defined positions, what you project them as, and then let them cook there. But don't keep moving them around. Like I'm saying, have a plan going into camp. But I think of those 3 players, you'll have a guy. Honestly, even with the signing of Ryan Jensen too, you can throw Dieter into the mix at left guard as well because he can play guard. So that's your left tackle, left guard is 2 of those 4 guys, I guess. Center, obviously Ryan Jensen. Right guard, Rob Hunt. Right tackle, Trent Brown. It's a much improved line in my opinion, especially with improved coaching and scheme on the offensive side of the ball. I think there'll be improvement, especially the right side of the line is mean, especially in the run game. So I think the offense is much improved. Hopefully we see development out of those young offensive linemen. Defensively, not much has changed besides Devondre Campbell getting thrown into the mix. It's hard to do personnel groupings, especially for this defense, so I just went with a nickel, 4 linemen, 2 backers, 5 DBs. Manuel Agba, Christian Wilkins. Who do you want to throw at second defensive lineman? Sealer, Butler, Raekwon, whichever guy. I mean, it's kind of dependent on situation. Edge, Jalen Phillips / Van Ginkel. The linebackers, Jerome Baker, Devondre Campbell. And then for the secondary, we have Xavier Howard, Byron Jones, Nick Needham, Javon Holland, and Brandon Jones, which is that's a good secondary right there. So I think the influx of offensive talent with the improved coaching can really take this team over the edge with the defense that we have shown the ability to put out there. So, man, hopefully, I mean, only time's going to tell what's going to happen. It's really hard to project how they're going to move offensively because they are able to adapt to the skills of their guys. But I think, in my opinion, I like this offseason. Let me know down below what your guys' thoughts are and maybe what you would have done differently. And like I said, if you have any suggestions on future videos, I'm all ears because I'm starting to run out of ideas until free agency actually hits and I can do reactions to our signings. I have like a week and a half window of trying to fill out that content. So feel free, like I said, drop suggestions, like and subscribe. And like I said, I appreciate you guys for watching. It means a lot to me. So I'll see y'all.